So you want to know the best star cards in Star Wars Battlefront 2? Well, I got you. We'll be covering cards for every hero, every villain, every class, every reinforcement, for every saber mode and gun mode. We'll even go over cards that don't even work. Now then, let's get into the star cards. Starting off with the classes. For assault, I would recommend going assault training, so that way every time you defeat an enemy, you gain a small amount of health. Bodyguards, that way you take reduced damage at critical health. And then bounty hunter, I would only do this if you're trying to point farm, and if you don't want to point farm, I'll just go toughen up, so that way when this ability is activated, you can regenerate your health faster. And then for heavy, I'll go bodyguard again, so that way you take reduced damage at critical health. Bounty hunter, you gain battle points at an increased rate. And then supercharged sentry, which what this basically does, it's like the regular minigun, just with like some AoE damage. So like if someone's around a corner and you shoot it at that corner or like at that edge, you can like kind of hit them. And it also goes like through lightsaber blocks. So if you have this out and you shoot a hero, it would go through their block a bit, but it won't do too much damage, but it would still fry them. And then for officer, I recommend running resourceful, so that way all your abilities have a shorter recharge time. And then bounty hunter, only if you're trying to like point farm again. And then improved battle command, so that way when you pop this, you and people around you get like a health boost, which is really nice in gunfights. So like when I'm low and I have this like ability ready, I'll pop it. But also I would, if you don't like to like point farm, I would run like disrupt around. So if you know there's an enemy coming up on you, you can pop it and it overheats their gun, so they can't shoot you, but you can still shoot them, you know. And then for specialist, I recommend bounty hunter if you're trying to like gain battle points really fast. And then resourceful, so all of your abilities have a shorter recharge time, which you're going to use that card mainly for your infiltrator ability, which is the next card, is Hardened Infiltrator. And basically with this card on, it allows you, like when you have this ability out, it allows you to like take reduced damage. Or you could swap it out with like Killstreak Vanguard, so that way every time you get a kill, it gives you a little more time. And another good card, honestly, that I like to run over like these two cards right here is Marksman. So when you defeat an enemy with a headshot, your weapon heat will reset, so that way like say you shot 3 times and your gun's about to overheat, if you get a headshot, it would just like completely reset, so you can keep shooting. So it's really nice, especially if you can't hit snipes. And then for enforcer, I go survivalist, so that way your health regenerates faster. I'll do enforcer training, so that way you gain a small amount of health for each enemy you kill. And then battle hardened, for maximum health is increased by 20%. And also I'm running a card mod that tells me like more of a description, so if my card's like a little different, or like my card descriptions looks a little different from yours, it's because like I have the mod on that makes it more detailed. But anyways, back to aerial training, I would recommend running, so that way you gain a small amount of health for each enemy defeat. Battle hardening again, and then I'll run evasion, so that way you get +1 evade, so you go from like 2 evades to 3. Next up it's infiltrator. I would run desperation, so that way when you damage is like dealt to you, your ability's recharge rate is reduced. And then evasion again, so you get that 3rd evasion. And then I go stalker. Oh, and also keep in mind, you only get the 3rd evasion and a maxed out card. But I would do stalker, so that way you regain health when defeating an enemy when you reveal them with your scanner. And then onto heroes already. We're gonna start with the bottom ones, which actually the balls I don't play. So after this video, I'm gonna do a little bit of research and like put it in the comments of like what cards you want to run. For Anakin, he's my max, so I better know. popular card setup is Tenacious, Massive Strikes, and Steamroll. So pretty much with this card setup, you're kind of like a tank that does high damage, but with Massive Strikes, you will lose some of your stamina, but that's fine, because you eventually like kind of find a workaround like around it, like I did. And then the start card setup I got going right now, which is Massive Strikes, Attraction, and Raw Strength. This is what I usually run in Supremacy, because Attraction and Raw Strength allows you to, well, Attraction allows you to not get too close to enemies. So like with Anakin, the further away from an enemy that you are, the better. So that way, when you are far away, you can still kill them with this. And then Raw Strength, like if you know what I'm trying to say by this. But Raw Strength, it just makes your HM do more damage, which is really nice against reinforcements. So like if you pull, like say an aerial's trying to fly away, sorry. This card will like be able to pull further, so you can definitely get him. And then this will do like take away all of his damage, or all of his health, I mean, if not all, most of it. And then Massive Strikes makes it so you can like one shot any default class but heavy. Also, if you want to know caps cards, I'll make another video on that another time. But for now, we'll just be over like saber modes and blaster modes. For Dooku, I would run Sith Control. Oh, also, I don't know if I mentioned what's for HVV and what's for not. This, and then this is for HVV. And I also run for another HVV combo. I'll run Tenacious, Attraction, and Raw Strength. And then these three will be for like a blaster mode. Saber mode on Dooku, I would run these three. So that way you have maximum health regeneration, and then your lightning recharge rate is faster. And the reason why you want this card, instead of like this card for example, is so it allows you to like, because this is kind of his gambit. This card, or this ability, is really useful because it does high damage and knocks him down. And then I'll run Masterful Duelist, so that way he does even more damage when Duelist is activated. And then for blaster modes, I'll keep Sith controlled, and I run Blind Spot, so that way when enemies are like kind of more spread out, because like multiple troopers that like to be in packs, I would run this because that would help it a lot. And I also run Finesse, so that way you drain less stamina when using his lightsaber. Obi-Wan. This is the current Supremacy setup. Health regeneration, all out push, it just makes it quicker, so that way you don't have to sit there for longer and take more damage trying to like get your push out. And then forward, oh my, this card is so nice, because for example, if you're Obi-Wan on droid's ship phase and you can go to spawn trap, usually there's be a lot around that like their spawn area. So if you have this card on and activate this ability, you're gonna one shot pretty much every like trooper there. And then for, honestly, I would run this star card setup, maybe take off this and put this on for HVV, so that way their abilities are taken away for a longer period of time. For Grievous, this is my current, I think, Supremacy setup, yeah. So Sith Train kind of acts like Anakin's Master Strikes. So he does more damage. So you'll be able to one-tap the 3 classes except for Heavy. And then line up weaklings. It gives you an extra 50 increased damage, but with his crawl. And with his already high crawl damage, this card is really nice. Like, say for example, you're on Geonosis, and you're on C in that like circle area. There could be a whole bunch of clones there. If you activate crawl with this card on, you're killing every single one. And then Flesh is weak. It's a damage reduction card, and it's a very overpowered one too. And honestly, this setup also you can run in HVV, but if you don't like Sith Trained, you can swap it out for this. But usually you don't want to run both of these, because having both of these on at the same time is not useful. And then if you're versing good people that know how to pair the crawl I would run this, like these 3 cards right here, swapping this one out for this one. But Phasma, I also do not play, so I will put I'll like do research after the video and put the cards in the comments. And then for Finn, honestly, Finn, I'd say in HVV, just like all the middle abilities, because you know Finn's a support character and his middle ability is really overpowered, so I'll just definitely run these 3. And then for blaster modes, I'll go Stay Calm for his Deadeye ability, which Deadeye, if you don't know what it does, it's like an aimbot. It kind of auto locks on, and once you start shooting, every bullet's gonna hit. So every time you defeat an enemy, the duration will be active for longer. And then I would run Never Going Back, and I can do this, which these cards are for his, I think it's called Stealth ability, or no, Undercover Team ability. And basically it's just gonna extend his, like every enemy you kill extends the duration. And then with this card on, it allows the abilities to be, or enemies, sorry, to be revealed for longer. Onto Yoda. This star card setup right here, I run for Supremacy. It's just makes his like health buff one be active for longer, and then this one gives you more health, or like bonus health for the health buff, sorry. And then this makes it so it receives less damage. And then I would keep these 2 for HPV, swap this one out and put on, I think it was this one, yeah, this one, I put on the dark side, so that way you do more damage to enemy heroes. Onto Rey, this is my current HPV star card setup. Damaging Strike and Resilient Dash. This pretty much makes it so you do more damage and take less damage when you're using her strike ability. And then I run Balance for an extra dodge. Oh yeah, and then for blaster modes, I'd keep these 2 cards on. And then if you're on like a enclosed map, kind of like Death Star, for example, you want to run Focus Sight, so that way her middle is active for longer. But then if you're on like a bigger map like Tatooine, I'd run Farsight, so that way her like AoE of the ability is increased. Darth Maul, I'd run for HV lightsaber defense, so any blaster damage he takes, he receives less, and if he gets hit during his spin attack, he takes 60% damage reduction, which is really good. And then Fool Me Once, it's giving you your abilities a shorter recharge time, but like with this description, it says like some abilities are different. And then Accelerated Throw, so when you land that saber throw, it does more damage. And then for my blaster modes, I keep these 2. I swap this one for Flow Motion, which gives you an extra spin ability, which is really nice for like if you're trying to get out of a tight situation. Luke, this is probably the best, yeah, definitely the best star card setup for HVV. Jedi Fighter, basically what it does is it makes your melee strikes drain less stamina. Intensify, it kind of turns him into Anakin, so he will slowly build up like more and more damage, or like more and more damage that he can deal to enemies. And then Rush Immunity, sorry, so that way he takes less damage when he does rush. But if you want to, you can swap out this for Epicenter, which Epicenter, it adds a second radius, like a smaller one, and if the enemy's in there, they take more damage when you use the ability, but it also goes through their block, which you might not have known. And then for Leia, I run Optimize Shield so she can place her squad shield more often. Rebel Hearts, that way her E11. Oh wait, hang on, I'm lucky tripping. I forgot the trooper modes for Luke. For Luke, I'd keep Intensified, I'd keep Jedi Fighter. Honestly, I would keep Rush Immunity, but you can also swap it out for Extend Push Reach for like maps like the last phase of Endor, which would be really nice, where they're kind of all like grouped up together. And then back to Leia. Like I said, squad shield. Rebel Heart makes it so she takes less damage when she has her E11 out, and then like relentless firing, which makes it so every time she fires, it drains like less time from her. And also this card is broken, so do not use it. Oh yeah, and then actually, now that I think about it, I'll swap out Optimized Shield for Handy Device, which makes the cooldown on your thermal detonators reduced. And this would be the supremacy build right here. Is these two, and then optimized shield deployment. Let's just put that back on. And then for Lando, this card does not work, so do not equip this one ever. Lando, I would run for HVV. I think it was these two cards, so that way, like when it sits on the surface for a long time, its stun like radius and stun length gets extended. And then obviously hot and cold. And then I would run these two cards and hot and cold for like supremacy. And sorry if I'm kind of confusing when I'm explaining these. I'm just trying to. I was in a rush to make this video and try to get it out on time, so I really don't have any time to do like really good edits and like redo certain parts. But on the Kylo Ren, I will do closing in. So when you use this frenzy, you can leap from further away. Power reach, so its pull has an increased area of effect. Bloodlust, so every time you land a frenzy, it does more damage. And that's for HV. Don't know if I mentioned that. But I would for saber modes, or not saber modes, sorry, blaster modes. I would run closing in, power reach, and then I think Berserk's Tantrum, so he drains less stamina. On Iden, low key, I think I have to update this, but HVV, I would run alternate methods, so she can use her alternate firing mode more often, and then cool blaster, so she does less heat. And then I would go, wrong one, droid batteries, so she can use her droid abilities more often. And then I would do probably alternative methods, and then the two shield ones for like blaster modes, so that way her shield can be up for longer and be able to take more damage. And then Han, for HVV, you want to run, I think it was, Sharpshooter's Calm, so every time he shoots, it doesn't drain as fast, like his time, I mean. And then Smuggler's Wit, so he gets an extra dodge. And then do Air Burst, so that way when you throw the detonite charge and you explode it before it hits the ground, it does extra damage. And then for modes like Supremacy, I would keep this card, and then I would run, I think it was Sharpshooter Frenzy, and then All In, which what Sharpshooter Shooting Frenzy does is when you defeat an enemy, the ability gets extended. And then the All In, when you defeat an enemy, you reduces the recharge time. And then Palpatine, Lightning Reach, which makes his reach for his lightning further. And then In Full Control, which makes it so he chains less stamina. And then Growing Darkness, which makes his aura grow larger and larger as it's active, is my AVV build. And then for Supremacy, I get rid of this and run Surge of Lightning, so that way his chain lightning can bounce to more targets. And then for Vader, this is the HVV setup. So this makes it so, this card makes it so he takes less damage when he's like in this ability. And then bonus health obviously gives him an extra 150 health, which is freaking overpowered. And punishing grip, which makes it so he can grip enemies for longer. And then for supremacy, I keep these two cards, and then I swap out punishing grip for surrounded by fear. So when he kills an enemy, he gains stamina back, which in like blaster modes, this card is actually really overpowered, so that we can keep on killing enemies. And if I ever say like supremacy, I mean blaster mode, so it's supremacy and GA. But Chewie for HVV, I run bonus health, impervious, and multi-shock. Which impervious, what it does is, when he does a combined damage total of 200 with any ability, he gains 2% damage reduction. And then multi-shock, which is when it shocks out like a wider area and like adds more grenades. And then for supremacy, I run bonus health, and then I think it was, yeah, echoing roar. So when he defeats an enemy, his ability is active for longer. And then I would do charging frenzy, so he takes less damage when he's in that, when in his slam ability. And it's also really nice for escaping fights. Bossk, this card does not work. Do not use it. I used it for the longest time, and I bet it's been throwing me, and I didn't know why at first until I realized it just didn't work. And then for HVV, you want to run Predator Resilience, so that way he takes less damage when he's in this ability. And then I'll do Trap Arming Speed, so that way if you have to quickly set down traps, like say like Anakin's coming for you or Rey's coming for you, and you don't have traps around you, once you set down traps, it will arm faster. And then I'll run not ultimate predator, I think it was multi traps, so it adds an additional 2 traps. And then for supremacy, you want to keep this one, the ultimate predator, so when you kill an enemy, it extends his duration, his time duration for the ability, and then lingering Daxis, which makes it so his gas is out there for longer. And then for Boba, I think it was, yeah, Intense Barrage for HVV, Intense Barrage, and then I would also go Foculize, which with these cards on it just makes his rockets do like a lot more damage. And then Quick Refuel or Refill, so that way his jetpack can refill faster when it's not being used. And then for Supremacy, I'll keep this card on. I'll go Fuel Efficiency, so that way he burns fuel slower when flying. And then I would go Extended Exposure, so that way he can reveal enemies for a longer duration. Oh, and also for HVV, you can take off like this card and put on this card, which would be really annoying. People will hate you so much for this. It'll make it so they're concussed for a longer period for an additional 2 seconds, which may not sound like a lot, but when you're in the middle of a fight and you get hit by that, those 2 seconds matter, and it's really annoying. But yeah, that's it. And there you guys have it. There's the best star cards for 2025 for every hero, villain, class, for both saber modes and blaster modes. If you found this video helpful, don't be afraid to drop a like or even subscribe. Then as always, tell me what I could have done better with this video, because I'm always looking to improve. And thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you next time.